All right, so what I want to do today is really simple. I'm just trying to create a video reference of all of our two snow skates that work really well so that when we're thinking about snow skates or designing snow skates or wanting to get back into it, we have got some good footage of what they are so that we've got a base point of what to think about without having to get our hands on and pull them out every single time we want to look at them. So this snow skate here is, we call it the Talon because it's got these 3 skis going on. And it has these 3 skis in the back, and it's got this base ski. And when you're going straight, it's entirely riding on the base ski. But as you turn, it engages more and more and more with the talons. And these talons, as you can see, are not flat. They're angled over. And so when they engage, so you lean to turn on a ski. These basically, think about these as pre-leaned by a pretty decent amount. In fact, I'm going to quickly measure it. I'm measuring 18 degrees, so we probably meant it to be 20 degrees of pre-lean on the 2 Talon skis. So what else can I show you? Well, first let's do a little bit of a walk around. So here's the front. There's the rear. And then I'll turn it around. There you go. There we go. So we originally designed, I keep kicking this thing. We originally designed this to be the front and this to be the rear. That was the original thought. And the thinking was that having more ski up front, the thinking was you want to have more steering up front and you want the rear to trail because that's what you want on the skateboard. We wanted to have more nose area to keep it up off the snow. That was one of the things we were thinking. But it ended up that this whole arrangement had so much drag, whenever we tried to ride it that way, it would just turn around on its own, and it didn't ride that way very well. So I think we fiddled around with it, and I think we just remounted the deck on it or something, and that's what we have now, and that's working really, really well. The caveat with this one, this ski sinks into the snow quite a lot. So this is only rideable really on hardpack. So the Talon is for harder snow. And then what I want to do is I want to stand on it. Show you what it does. So we've got this tail here. That's a lot of noise. Anyway, so you can lift up and keep the front out of the snow. This is how you keep the front on top of the snow. And then as I can lean, leaning is not realistic if I just do this on the table, but the foam complies a little bit so I can get a better idea of what it's going to do on the snow. And you can see as well what it leaves behind. You can see the base ski here. The base ski digs in when you lean, and then these talons really dig in, and they're what give it some turning. So the idea originally with the Talon, so this base ski originally wasn't pinned down so that it could flex and move more. Oh yeah, so this side here is not pinned down. And that's probably part of what was making noise. So these blocks ended up being necessary to make standing on the tail work. Yeah, so that's just a busted screw poking in out of the ski is what that noise is. So these blocks became necessary to make the tail work, but the idea was to have the skis still flex a little bit, but it doesn't really happen that way. So yeah, that's the Talon. This one was my idea and my design. I wanted to have this Talon thing going on. This other one, this was the ski that Riley came up with. So for some reason, we didn't come up with a name as cool as the Talon for this one. I think we ended up just calling it the Powder Board, because this one, unlike the Talon, it does not work on hardpack, but it works amazing on soft snow. Anything that just has to have enough firmness to it so that it doesn't sink too deep. But it can be sunk down into the snow and work really well. So this Snowskate was originally a little bit more like the Talon in that it had the base ski. And one of Riley's philosophies was nothing flexes, nothing moves. He just wants static, dumb surfaces that are preset to do what he wants the ski to do. So originally he had a base ski that was pre-bent in a curve, and then these secondary skis bent in a curve. And the primary base ski just ended up being, it didn't end up doing a whole lot, except making the whole thing like, giving this whole thing a bunch of rocker feel. But when we took that off, this thing just magically started to feel awesome. And I think part of it is the fact that it's because it's got this, just the two skis like that, it ends up getting a pretty good amount of surface area that catches snow and it can stay on top of. Whereas this thing, I think it just doesn't stay on top of the snow, and I think it's partially because the fronts doesn't stay on top of the snow, so maybe this thing just needs a longer, spoonier nose up here, like that. Maybe that would be what it wants. But this pre-bent curve works pretty well. Now, one of the keys of this thing is how narrow this waist is and how wide these edges are, because this is not a snowboard, it's a snow skate. It has to lean like a skateboard. And that was one of the big philosophies of this stack here. This stack has a curvature to it that you can, what do you say, it's got a curvature to it, and so it's like rolling side to side on a cam, like what we make in our skateboards. So this base has to be at a width that allows leaning to still work. So if this is just on the floor, it doesn't lean, but if it's on a compliant material like snow or even some foam, it works a lot better. So this guy here, you step on the tail. It's crucial for virtually all snow skates to have a tail you can push down on and lift up the nose. And this thing, you can see, it leans, no bindings. Works pretty darn well for leaning. So, let's take a look at the impressions this guy leaves. So, you know what? Maybe I should grab a Sharpie. So you can see the curves it left there, and there. Because of the way the stance is and the way the board is shifted to one side, the impressions are deeper on the tail side and lighter on the front. That's part of how this board works. You can see it's got the nose, it's got the tail. Part of the balancing is having a wide enough nose and less going on with the nose, so you can, lift it up with just a little narrow tail. So this guy works. These skis, as you can see, are also pre-angled, and that's a big part of what makes this thing work. Skis normally don't start turning. So skis don't turn if they're flat, and they don't turn a whole lot if you're leaning 5 degrees or even 10 degrees. They really only wake up once you're leaning a lot. If you look at snowboard carving, you're seeing them lean like 60 plus degrees. So it's skis are designed to work when they lean. So part of this pre-lean is so you don't have to lean as far for it to start working. That also is kind of at odds with the fact that this thing doesn't really flex, because these skis are screwed down to this piece of wood, which is screwed to the deck to kind of pre-curve it and pre-wedge it. I was going to measure the angles on this. So this one is also 19 degrees. So I'm guessing for both decks, we were going for 20 degrees. It might have collapsed a little bit over the years on this guy. I don't think we did the walk around on this one. Let's do the walk around. There it is, the walk around. You can see one of the wooden blocks broke, but it still seems to work just fine. There we go. And then let's see the blocks under here. And again, the blocks are crucial for making the tail work, transferring that force. So both of these are built on the same deck. It's kind of built to emulate a popsicle deck with a nose and the tail, but it's asymmetric. It's a 10-inch wide deck, and it is 30 inches long. I think it could stand to be 11 or 12 inches based on my experience with mountain boarding in the past couple of years, where I've been making the decks wider and wider. So that's a thought. You can see it's got the nose here, concave, and then it's got kind of a nose and then a long sweep foot platform on the tail. So it's got a nice wide section. Let's see how long that is. It's about 6 inches, 6.5 inches for your foot to stand on. That's an extended tail. And the nose is about 4 inches, 3 or 4 inches. Let's see. Oh, I want to measure, because the waist is important. Yoink, 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 yoink. Okay. So the waist, the narrowest part of this deck, is 7.5 inches, and it goes all the way to 9.5 inches on the tail, 9 inches on the nose. So that's probably important to making it work right. I think the nose and tail could be wider than they are, and perhaps the waist could be a little narrower, especially if the deck is wider. I think probably the number one thing that would help this board work better would be to start with a snowboard that we cut and fuse so that it doesn't have a seam in the middle. That would, I think, be the best way to go about that. This is a kid's board. How long is the board? 40 inches. Okay, let's get some measurements on the Talon. Okay, Talon, the decks are the same. You can probably see the tail a little bit better, how it's got the little swoop here where the concave goes away, and then the big flat tail. We still have the molds for these decks, by the way. I've saved them. They're somewhere. Deck's the same. Skis are not. So, the base ski, 3.5 inches to 4 3/4 inches. I'm not sure that matters a whole lot, but the width of the Talon is 11 inches, and it narrows and goes under the base ski in about 27 inches of length. The location of the platform on the tail is right at the end of the base ski, and I think it probably did that on purpose to allow you to pivot off that tail. So when you're lifting the nose up, you're using this right here as a rocking chair, kind of pivot. So this board, I think the main thing I'd want to try with this one, with taking this design further, is a different base ski that has a little bit longer nose with a bigger spoon on front to help it keep up out of the powder. I think that's the main flaw this guy has. And should get a view on this. I'm not sure how to measure that this whole dynamic here. But that's what the ski looks like. Looking at it, you can see this. Oops. You can see the stack. So this is what the snow ski. This is what the snow sees as the ski is coming at it. There. Point of view of the snow. And I think one of the drawbacks of this ski is there's simply more places to catch snow and for snow to build up. So I'm not sure how to address that, but that's definitely one of the drawbacks. I don't know when the next time we are going to be able to work on these things is, but one of the challenges is all the snow skates we've made, they're all dependent on just whatever skis and snowboards we're able to scavenge for free or less. So it's been really just dependent on luck, what we have. And I'd like to come up with a way to make these that's more easy to do, because this is so hard to do every time we make one, because we've got these custom sized blocks and at different angles and different things going on. It's actually a lot of work. You could imagine how much work it is to cut out a custom wedged piece of wood that's shaped to shape the board, and it's shaped to fit the ski, and it's also cut at an angle. So it's the biggest challenge right now is a different way to make these, and what would be nicest is we could figure out a way that's not dependent on skis, that we could just make ourselves. I'm not sure how important, well, because we're not using these as skis anymore. These are bolted to the deck. They don't really flex that much. It's better if they can flex some, but you know, like this one, it basically doesn't flex at all anymore because of how it's been put together. So maybe we're wasting time even using skis in the first place, and probably the only thing we're actually even using is the metal edge, but I don't think we're even hardly using that. Yeah, so I don't know what to move towards to allow us to make these easier and with more freedom. But that's the challenge. So my battery's about to die, but these are the Snowskates. There's some riding footage. We've done riding videos, but I don't think we've done a breakdown video like this that's got a lot of good reference material for us. So there we go. Longboard technology, over and out.